This episode's theme is going to be chupacabras. Chupacabras. Upon minutes and minutes of review, this episode is not going to be about chupacabras. Yeah, apparently people haven't ran into many dogs with mange. When I was doing the first couple episodes, it seemed it was it. I'm pretty sure there's some chupacabra stuff in there. Yeah, they're pretty tough to come by. Yeah, there ain't a whole lot of commenters mentioning anything about chupacabras. So apparently they don't exist. This episode's theme is going to be ghost calls. We'll do that. That's the next one on the list. Ghost calls. Some people call them phantom calls, I think. Let's see. Is that correct? Now, I've recently realized that this is a phenomenon? Yeah. I've recently realized this is a phenomenon. But yeah, I think it's happened like once. I was with someone. They were calling, and then it eventually hung up. But no, they pulled out their phone and showed that they weren't calling no one, or calling me. And yeah, so I guess I've personally experienced this. That could be a number of things, though, I guess, but that's kind of weird. Yeah, technology can be weird. So I don't know. What can we find? Couch Tater 1320. The first funeral home I worked at, I lived upstairs. On a day we were closed, I was cleaning the embalming room. The door chime went off, telling me someone just walked through the front door. It was locked because we were closed. I check up front, nobody there. Went back to cleaning, and it goes off again. Check up front, nobody there. The phone rang, which was supposed to be rerouted to the answering service. I pick it up and just static. I've always had the van stereo turned on full blast country music when I was delivering a casket to a cemetery. The radio turned on in the embalming room at 2 a.m. at a different funeral home. I definitely believe there are spirits. I wonder if that's going to be like most of these, static. Moving on. Compact girl. Yep, back when we had landlines one summer, we got very hot in our house. I couldn't sleep. I was sleeping in the living room because the bedroom was too hot. I had the windows open. It was around 2 or 3 a.m. I peeked out the window and I saw a white mist floating. It had the figure of a woman in a white dress with a summer hat. She had no feet when she crossed our house. Dude, the radio turned on by itself and the landline phone rang, and I picked it up. And it had that same tone. No one responded when I said hello. We live out in the countryside. It's one heck of a sentence. Yeah, that might be worse than static. Yeah, you pick up the phone, you just hear nothing. It's silence, but it's not quite silence. Yeah, that might be worse. I don't know. I'm so excited. Look how excited I am. Mark Parker, 1626. When a friend of mine worked overnight at the local funeral home, he had a few situations that were unexplainable. Twice, he received calls on his cell phone that was just loud static. He immediately realized the number calling him. It was the funeral home director's office. He checked the office and it was empty. He resigned after the second call. One night his cell phone started playing country music, and he was 20 feet away from it. Maybe it was him and that first guy, and they were calling each other. He blared that country music. Or they were butt dialing each other. That would be funny if it's the same funeral home. Circumstances are passing each other and they don't even realize it. Pretty funny. Come on, we need some spook. I know of one person who claims that 20 years ago or so, he would occasionally get phone calls from a friend who died in a car accident. And when he was told he was dead, "We're not supposed to be talking because you are dead," the voice on the phone would deny it, insisting he was alive. This fellow said he got several calls like this. I believe he is telling the truth. Very eerie story. When I was looking into the phenomenon, what was it? You got, I guess the ring would count. Yeah, the ring would count in all this. What was it? One missed call? That is. Okay, there we go. That's a lot. Oh, man, I couldn't imagine getting a phone call from a loved one. Traci Johnson, Francisco. Not a phone call, but I got a text from my aunt who had passed 3 days previously. I was on my way home from work in my car alone, with her heavily on my mind. As I pulled into my driveway, my phone dinged. letting me know I had a new text message. You know how part of your texts appear on your lock screen so you can see you've got a message? Well, it was a long message, but all I could read was part of it. You have to open the text message to read all of it. The thing that struck me was that it was all in lowercase. Pretty much all smartphones by this time automatically capitalizes the first letter in the first word of every sentence. Well, this one wasn't like that. It's like whoever wrote the text message would have had to have fought against the autocorrect that all smartphones have. I thought it was very odd. Anyway, from the lock screen, what I could read of the message, it said, "I love you, Traci. Tell your mom and dad, ... That's where it cut off on the lock screen notification. When I went to my phone, the text message had vanished. There was no record it had ever existed. Another thing I had noticed before the message disappeared is that there is no sender listed. Like I said, it went against all the basic things that you get with a normal text message. I very awkwardly contacted everyone in my contacts that could have sent such a personal message, including a couple of ex-boyfriends, and all denied sending the message. It looked like she wanted to tell my mom and dad, who was still living at the time, goodbye, and that she loved them too. That's the sense I got, and it still gives me chills today. I don't blame you. See, it's tough to explain the texts. Man, ghost texts. Oh, T Park 4444. We used to have caller ID show up on our TV. Imagine the surprise I got to share with my husband. Honey, we're getting a phone call right now from your grandma. She had passed away the year before we got married, 31 years before that day. My husband's family lived with and grew up in his grandma's house, and phone calls from there always came in under my father-in-law's name. There was never even a phone book listing in his grandma's name. I checked with the phone company. This happened around Halloween, and I asked the phone company to remove his grandma's name from any records. They had no history of her through several computer system upgrades over 40 years. So, how did it suddenly show up on caller ID? I eventually found out his mom was calling to request a command audience for the funeral of a family friend. From the sign-in registry, I understood the funeral was for a direct family relative of my husband's grandma. We were going to show respect, even though we didn't know anyone there, except my mother-in-law's sister. Grandma never felt she got much recognition as owner of the homestead, and I think this was a way for her to bring attention to her relevance and express desire not to be forgotten. Total respect for her, and I told her so at the house at the time. The unwelcome energy that I'd always sensed when I had to stop by their home alone was gone from then on. That's interesting. That might be one I have to reread to myself. Karen Schwartz, 8280. I received a message like that from my mom shortly after she died. The funeral was on a Monday, and I went back to work on Friday night. I worked 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. When I got home from work on Saturday morning, I found my answering machine beeping and showing one message. I know there were no messages on it from previous, because I had cleared them all after the funeral. I hit the replay, and as clear as day, my mother's voice said, "It's me." It was a very comforting moment, and I felt she was letting me know that she was okay. Oh man. It's probably something you can keep, right? I hope, unless it deletes itself. Tammy Ramel, 712. I received a phone call from my husband shortly after he died. He said, "Call me," and I listened to the voice message multiple times, and had my children listen to the voice message, and they freaked out saying, "That is Dad's voice." His phone was sitting right next to me on the table when the call came in. His voice was very deep and raspy in the voicemail. I swear to this day, it was him calling me. Well, Dean, I still have it? Yeah, the voicemails, the texts, that's all of it's kind of tough to explain. That'd be cool to find out one day if we can. That's the thing, if ghosts get proven, then what's next? Like, what's the capability of what ghosts can do? Maybe how do we communicate? There's gonna be a lot of people not wanting to do that. It's very unnatural. Call me Onyxed 7018. My aunt and uncle were staying at a hotel for a friend's wedding back in like 1991. The phone in the room got a call, and when my uncle answered, it was my grandpa saying, "Tell Mama I'm alright, and not to worry about me." And then the line died. This occurred about 3 weeks after my grandpa had died from a heart attack. No one in my family knows what happened, or what it was. It still gives me chills. Oh, I thought he was gonna say, that's how they found out the grandpa died. Lucas Gus, 8434. OMG, that first one actually hit different for me. That same thing happened to me and my girlfriend like 5 or 6 years ago. I woke up one day to her calling me, and she was asking me why I had just called her so early in the morning, shortly after 7 a.m. I told her I never called her, but she told me she had received a call from me that sounded like I was far away from the phone and telling her to come outside. She said that I ended up hanging up on her after I wouldn't tell her why I wanted her to come outside. My phone had no record of making a call, but her phone had the record of a 20-second conversation with me. It was so creepy and was so weird, and I'll never forget it. Oh, that's giving me goosebumps. Chilled down my spine. Yeah, that's not cool. The further, technology is progressing, I think it's hard to explain it, because with old technology, most of you guys might be too young for this, but we used to have home phone lines. We couldn't, carry it with us or whatnot. It was like this. I'll put a picture up, whatever. But when you got a call, if you got a call to your house, and you had multiple home phones, throughout the house, or if both of you pick up the phone, you all can be talking in the house at the same time to whoever called your house. Maybe the phone's just got a mind of their own. I don't know. Or this technology has a mind of their own. They're worried about AI everyone's worried about the AI taking over. This involves it. These phones. Christine Whitfield, 7939. This actually happened to me once. It was after the passing of my father, who had tried unsuccessfully to call me from the hospital where he was to have surgery. The surgeon botched the operation, and after nearly a month in ICU, my father's life support was turned off. A few months later, my phone rang one evening. When I answered, nobody spoke, but there was a background noise which sounded just odd. I can't really describe it. It was not like any silent phone call I had ever heard, and I felt spooked. So I reported it and was told that they would trace it. A man called back some hours later to say they had tracked the call, but the number did not exist, and he added in a rather astonished voice that the engineers had absolutely no explanation for it. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But if you were a ghost, you probably would only reach out to loved ones and whatnot, so I haven't got any ghost calls. I don't think there's no dead ones that want to talk to me. Not cool. Not cool, ghosts. I mean, most of it would be kind of terrifying, but I think the idea of ghost calls would be cool. Haven't really received any outside of that one. All I've got is butt dials, telemarketers, pranks, wrong numbers, scammers. Oh, that'd be like telemarketers. Well, debt collectors, and those. Yeah, no ghost calls. Yeah, none of these are gonna be like Bernie Mac. Hey yo, Chris Farley called me. You wouldn't believe it. My crush, Brittany Murphy, called me. Jim Varney. Some of you guys don't know who that is, and that's disappointing. Yeah, we probably won't get none of those. That'd be pretty dope if there were ghost calls. Well, Jesus sort of calls people. I mean, he doesn't use a phone. That's what he should do. Is use a phone one time. They save it, and you go tell everyone that Jesus called. It's like, sure he did. It's like, no, I got the message. Yeah, then no one believe him. That's probably why he doesn't use a phone. Yeah, no one will believe him, even if you save it and everything. That's pretty wise, not using the phone. That's probably why most ghosts don't use phone. Yeah, they're like, I'll contact you through your dreams or something, or I'll spell out something on your fridge, because if I call on the phone, no one's gonna believe this crap. Yeah. Aaron K. 218. My aunt passed away in 1984 at 41 years old. It was from melanoma that had metastasized to her liver, and it was kinda sudden. Late diagnosis. My mom was taking a nap one day and had a dream she was talking to my aunt on the phone. She woke up with the phone in her hand. My mom has not done anything like that before or since, so she doesn't tend to sleepwalk or grab things in her sleep or anything. Kinda freaked her out. That freaks me out. I don't know, maybe it's like the FBI's bored or something, just messing with us. What was it? A Shia LaBeouf clip?
Remember, we had an FBI consultant on the picture telling me that they can use your ADT security box microphone to get your stuff that's going on in your house, or OnStar, they could shut your car down. And he told me that 1 in 5 phone calls that you make are recorded and logged. And I laughed at him, and then he played back a phone conversation I'd had 2 years prior to joining the picture.
Yeah, if they can do that, you know, what's stopping them from like messing around and doing anything else? Cheeto fingers. I had my own creepy phone call once. It was a short one, but still weirds me the hell out to this day. So about a year ago, I worked at this hardware store. Somehow, me and this lesbian ended up becoming really good friends during the couple of weeks I worked there. I asked her out because I thought she was just kind of athletic built. I had no idea she was a lesbian until she told me afterwards. Needless to say, that was kind of a rude awakening. But she was still flattered that I asked her out nonetheless, and we had some great energy. Jump to a few weeks later, and we had a brief hookup.
Say what?
It was her idea, but she felt kind of bad about it afterwards and told me she didn't want to do it again because she had plans to marry her current girlfriend. Aw, come on, dude. Damn. So we kind of both went our separate ways and left it at that. Is that a technique? You sure it wasn't a technique? Maybe that was a technique to like ditch you. It makes you think that she's not available or she doesn't want nothing to do with you. That'd be a good technique for a chick. Yeah, just tell a guy you're a lesbo. Cool. 2 months pass without us talking. One night, I get a phone call. It's her number. I missed the first call, and she calls again. When I answer, I ask, hello? And get a very distinct male voice asking me, is this Cheeto? I said, who's this? The voice asked again, louder and more concise, is this Cheeto? I nervously replied, it might be, who's this? Click, dude hangs up. Well, that made me somewhat paranoid for the next few days, to say the least. What was really bizarre was the fact that when I texted this girl back to ask her what the hell was going on, she told me she didn't know what I was talking about, and swore up and down she had never called me. It's been a little over a year since it happened, and I hadn't been murdered or anything. But I still think about it every now and then. If any of you reading this have any idea of what that might have been, feel free to let me know in the comments. I don't know, Cheeto. Man, could have been a prank too. Like one of her male friends. Mojave Sun Cup. The house I grew up in had a backyard with a wooden privacy fence. One day, my dad got a call from an unknown number that simply said, the little birds died. He hadn't told anyone, but while he was mowing earlier that morning, he saw a destroyed bird's nest on the ground. Oh, it was probably the neighbor doing those like Star 69. Either way, that'd be creepy nonetheless. Beth Virginia Phillips, 4583. Phone Calls from the Dead by Scott Rogo. An older paperback is stunning. If possible, you should get a copy. My boyfriend passed away in 11 of 22. And less than 2 weeks later, a phone call was waiting for me. A robot metallic voice which identified itself as a text to landline free message told me he is all right. He will be taken care of. And the line went dead. No one knew he passed away in my life. It was something very much not of this world. It blew my mind. I'm going to check out that book. That sounds cool. Phone Calls from the Dead by Scott Rogo. Russell Smith, 6498. Back in the days when landlines were all anybody had, my dad answered the phone one time and seemed to be a third party to an ongoing call in which the other two people on the line could not hear him. Apparently the conversation was about the loss of someone. The two women talking back and forth were discussing the shock of someone's death. My dad hung up as a crossed call. To me, it was just plain weird. That is creepy. I'm gonna have to check out that book. That sounds actually really interesting. It's just a neat phenomenon. That'll do it. I was your host, Cockles. Thank you so much for joining me. Maybe I entertained you. Have an excellent night. See you on the next one. Take care.